Well, our wicked winter weather is proving lethal for some waterfowl in the region. The high winds and heavy snow are grounding some sea ducks and other seabirds. The lack of open water is also taking its toll. In just a moment, we'll talk with a veterinarian at the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Centre about what she's been hearing from across the region. But first, Island Morning's Nancy Russell has the story of Jamie French. He and his friend rescued a sea duck called a goldeneye. The duck had somehow become grounded on the Hillsborough Bridge.
I was on my way home from the gym with my friend DJ, driving home, and I noticed there was a bird in the middle of the road. Thought it was dead, but it wasn't. Turned around, parked, got out, chased it, had to run after it, picked it up, and we took it to the vet college.
Whereabouts on the bridge exactly were you?
Just off the main part, as if you're coming towards Shelltown, so by the oil tanks.
What was the bird doing at that point?
Just kind of running around, scared, middle of the road. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was a goldeneye.
Do you think it was hit?
It didn't really look like it was too bad, like injured. It wasn't bleeding or anything. It just looked like it was just kind of laying there confused and dazed. You know, his wings were moving, it was running, you know, his head was moving, so it didn't look too bad.
Obviously, it's dangerous for you being out on the road rescuing this goldeneye. Why did you want to do it?
I just thought, you know, it's a bird, it's not its habitat, and it was obviously scared, so I thought, you know, the best thing to do is rescue it and get it to help.
What did they say when you dropped it off at the vet college?
That was the second sea duck hit, and I guess there's more from the high winds and storms and all the ice.
What would you say to somebody else who encounters a sea duck like this?
Just do the same thing. Pick it up if it's not dead, if you can, and take it to the vet college.
Unfortunately, this particular bird died. Are you still happy you did it?
Yeah, well, you know, I at least had a chance, you know, dropped off at the vet college rather than just being in the middle of the road.
My name is Helene Van Donnick, and I'm a veterinarian and the founder of the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Centre. Well, this winter is particularly harsh for a lot of birds, but particularly waterfowl and sea ducks and seabirds are having a really hard time. The weather's been bad, to say the least. High winds and lots of precipitation is making some of these birds land in inappropriate places. And a lot of them, depending on the species, can't walk or take off from land. So when they land anywhere that's not the water, then they're immediately in trouble because they can't find food. They're subject to predation. We've had some that have had frostbite and some that were just starving or get injured. But in either case, they're not supposed to be out of the water and they can't get back to it. It's the worst we've seen. I mean, we've gotten a lot of birds in, things like mergansers and scop and goldeneyes. Not just that, but because a lot of the veterinarians, sort of naturalist community in the Maritimes know what I do, I've been getting, people have been texting me pictures of birds or sending me Facebook messages or calling me saying, you know, from fairly remote locations that they found a merganser or they found a scop or something out of the water and wondering what they can do for it.
There was a story on your Facebook page about a rescue by the New Glasgow Fire Department.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
The guy described the bird as just dropping out of the sky in front of him, and they tried to catch it, but of course it couldn't fly, so it just sort of skittered around and got itself launched up a little bit and basically slammed into the side of a building. But the type of bird it was is one that's not easy to sort of launch itself into the air, so they used one of their decontamination pools that they filled with water from their pumper truck and let him swim around and get some water and some hydration again, and then they put him in the water at former Trenton Steelworks because that water stays open, and once he got in the water, he was able to get away from them and also lift off the water too, because again, a lot of these species can't, their legs are so far back on them they can't take off from land, they have to take off from water.
What's your advice to people if they come across a sea duck or some kind of waterfowl in this situation where they can't take off?
The very best thing to do, especially if there's any concern that it's injured, would be to try and get it either to a rehabilitation center or to one of the sort of government agencies, contact them to let them know to see if it can be checked out to make sure that it's not injured. But I do acknowledge that a lot of people are in remote areas that don't have access to anybody that's able to examine the bird to make sure it's not injured. So if it's not apparently injured and is quite perky, the best thing to do would probably be to bring it back to open water. And it needs to be water that's going to remain open, not like, you know, a place with a little bit open. It should be like the ocean or, you know, somewhere that's going to stay open.
What is the usual mortality rate for these birds if they do end up on land?
It depends On a lot of things, it depends, on what shape they were in when they landed. Like, a lot of the ones we're getting are very thin, and that happens this time of year, sadly, but probably more so this year. If they're on the ground for a long time, then it's ice cold out, and they need food, they need energy to keep warm. So I presume, if they don't get found quite rapidly, the mortality rate's going to be quite high.
And do you have any idea of your numbers compared to past years?
I would say easily 3 or 4 times what we would normally get, because normally we get the odd one, but we're getting calls about them, daily.
Are these waterfowl or ducks that are in any way endangered? Are there any species that you're concerned about?
There's nothing that we've got that is a species at risk, but there are some things like harlequin ducks or Barrow's goldeneye, or any of the species that might be around if they got out of water. They are certainly species at risk. The ones we have had thus far have not been species at risk. We're also getting seabirds too, things like murres and dovekies. So if anybody sees anything that looks like any duck or ocean-going looking bird that on dry land or on snow, if you're not sure, it's pretty quick these days with everybody having a cell phone. You can always take a picture of it. If you're not sure what it is, send it to someone who knows what it is, and that can be us or anybody that knows, and then either try to get it help or try to get it back into the water.
Dr. Helene Van Donnick is a veterinarian at the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Centre in Brookfield, Nova Scotia. The number for the rehab centre is 902-893-0253. We also heard from Jamie French, who rescued a grounded goldeneye here on PEI.